welcome to Nilanjana's exclusive English lessons. My name is Nilanjana Sarkar and today I'm here to help you with 4 best stories in English that you must read if you're fond of reading. So my first recommendation for all of you is the story The Necklace. And in this story, we have the main character named Matilda, who is a young, pretty woman. But unfortunately, she is born in a family of clerks, which means that she wants to rise high in the society. However, due to this unfortunate situation in her life, she's stuck somewhere and she's not able to enjoy her life to the fullest. Even though she has a wonderful husband and everything in her life is perfect, but she's not happy with whatever she has because she just wants to become wealthy, rich, and wants to live in a huge mansion. That's the kind of life that she's looking for. So one day she gets an invitation for a ball and she realizes she has nothing good to wear, and she goes to her friend Madame Forestier to borrow a necklace. So Madame Forestier is her friend. She's very kind, very rich. She gives Matilda a diamond necklace to wear at the party. Obviously, Matilda is overexcited and she wears the necklace, looks pretty that night. Everybody has her eyes on her. Everybody wants to dance with her. So Matilda is, you can say, over the moon. However, that fateful night, she loses that necklace and she becomes frenzied because she thinks that it's a diamond necklace. Now what is she going to do? So she goes and buys a real diamond necklace, and it cost a fortune. She spends all her savings. She takes a huge amount of loan to buy that real diamond necklace and she gives it to Madame Forestier. Now in order to repay that loan, she goes through a life of toil and struggle. So for the next 10 years, she works day and night to repay that loan. Even her husband has to work in double shift, and those 10 years of her life are really, really miserable. And in that span of 10 years, when she has worked really hard and finally repaid the loan, at the end of the day, Matilda loses all her charm, all her beauty. She becomes an aged woman. So the prime glory of her life is lost. Now the twist comes at the end when she meets Madame Forestier after 10 years, and when she recounts her tale that this is the reason my life has changed and I'm looking so old and lifeless. That's when Madame Forestier tells her that you took that money, you borrowed that huge amount of money to buy a real necklace. Didn't you know that the necklace that I had actually given you was a false necklace? So this story has a wonderful twist at the end, and that's when Matilda realizes that the amount of money that she had spent to repay the necklace was actually a false necklace. So she has lost the prime time of her life, lost her beauty, lost her youth, lost her charm. The story, the reason I would recommend this story is because it gives us a very clear moral at the end that if you are extremely greedy, it can bring your downfall, and you should always cut your cloth according to your size. That's the moral, the message the story gives. And if you are really interested in reading stories which has a wonderful twist at the end, this is a must read. My second recommendation for all of you is the story Model Millennia, written by Oscar Wilde. Again, this story is about the protagonist named Hughie Erskine, and he has his charming good looks, very handsome, very attractive to look at, but he doesn't have money, he doesn't earn. So therefore a man, when he doesn't earn and just has his good looks, he's of no use. Even though Hughie is in love with a girl named Laura, his future father-in-law is not ready to allow Laura get married to Hughie because Hughie doesn't have any money, and he tells him strictly that You can only come for the marriage if you have 10,000 pounds with you. So that's the reason you can say that Yugi was stuck in this situation. He didn't have any money. One day Yugi goes to his friend who's a painter, and he frequently visits his friend just to have a conversation. And that's when he sees that his friend was drawing a portrait of a beggar, and the beggar was sitting in front of him. And he was in shabby clothes, the beggar, plus he also had a very sad and piteous expression on his face. Yugi, even though he didn't have any money, Yugi was very kind and empathetic, very generous. He didn't have much money with him. Now, seeing the beggar in such pitiable condition, he wanted to help him. So whatever money he had, which was like very less, like a sovereign, a few coins, just goes and gives it to the beggar because he wanted to help. Like genuinely he wanted to help someone. And the beggar was a little shocked. He just looked at the money and said thank you. Later on, next day, Yugi comes to know that actually he's not a beggar, he's a millionaire. And he just had the intention of getting his portrait done in the dress of a beggar. And that was his fancy, because you know millennials, they have these kind of fanciful thoughts. And Yugi was really embarrassed to know that he has actually helped a millionaire by giving a coin. So he's truly embarrassed. And of course he tells his friend that why did you share my story with him? And he said that actually the millionaire was really impressed when he came to know that he was so generous and helpful. The next day, the Millennia, who's Baron Hosberg, he sends his officer to Yugi's house with a check of 10,000 pounds, and he hands it over to Yugi, telling that it's a wedding gift from him for Yugi and Laura's marriage. So Yugi's problem is solved. He gets 10,000 pounds from Baron Hosberg, and obviously we can understand that why did he help Yugi, because he was really impressed with Yugi's empathetic and kind generosity. And if you talk about Baron Hosberg, he is truly a model millionaire, as the title suggests. A model in the sense, inspiration for others. Because if you have so much, if you are blessed with so much, then it becomes your duty to help others who are in need. So in this way, both the characters are wonderfully created by the author, and therefore quite an interesting story. A must read again, my second recommendation. My third recommendation is a very famous short story, The Gift of the Magi. Again, this is a story about a young married couple who are deeply in love with each other, and they are in their quest to gift each other a Christmas gift. However, they have their financial constraints. They have very less money with them, and with that limited resources, it's impossible for them to buy a gift for each other. But still, they long to give each other a gift. So what do is they sacrifice their most prized possession, whatever they have, which is very dear to them, the only thing that they have, and they sacrifice that to buy a gift for each other. And that's the beauty of the story, that if you love someone, you can go to any extent to see a smile on his or her face. So that was my third recommendation. My fourth recommendation for all of you is a very beautiful story, The Story of an Hour, written by Kate Chopin. The protagonist in the story is a lady named Mrs. Mallard, who's a heart patient. And at the beginning of the story, we see that there's a news which has come in her house that her husband has died in a rail accident. People in the house are quite skeptical about breaking the news to Mrs. Mallard, because the news can be detrimental to her health because she's a heart patient. However, when Mrs. Mallard hears the news, even though she is overcome by grief, still she accepts it, and she confines herself to a room and just sits on a chair. When she sits on a chair, there's a range of emotions that she experiences. She looks out of the window and she sees the scenery, she hears the songs, and that's when her mind gets diverted and she realizes that probably now she's going to enjoy that little freedom which she was missing in her marriage. So probably she was a little suffocated in her marriage, which she didn't realize. And now that the news has come that her husband is no more, she finds her freedom, she finds her independence, which was not there in her life, which was missing from her life. Ironically, after some time, Mr. Mallard comes home, opens the door with a latchkey, and everybody is shocked and surprised because the news is proved wrong. He is alive. And when he is alive, the news is broken to Mrs. Mallard. She dies of a heart attack. So, she dies of the joy that kills. Now, the reason I recommend this story to you is because the story deals with a very important thing, that women often find their true happiness in their own freedom and in their own independence when they don't have to adhere to social conventions. The second reason the story is beautiful is because of the situational irony. Just at the moment when she felt that she's free from all kinds of obligation, that's when she just meets her death. Therefore, my fourth story, The Story of an Hour, is a must read for all of you, those who are fond of reading. So these were my 4 best short stories in English that you can start with. And if you like this content, if you need more such recommendations, do let me know in the comments, and do subscribe to the channel. If you like this video, please give a thumbs up so that I get motivated to create more content like this, and share it with your friends. If anybody needs any recommendation, I think this can be really helpful. So that's all for today. Have a beautiful day ahead.